Hey everyone, it's Kai from Cool Collectibles back again for another review. This time it's the new Mer-Man statue from Tweeterhead, this being the Sideshow exclusive with the swap out trident, which I'll show you guys in a second. I've had to put it out here in my dining area just because it is 1/5 scale and a little too big to fit decently in my light box, so apologies for the background. But if you're interested in this thing, I think you're definitely going to love it. I've got the head sculpt in there at the moment that is the homage to the 80s toy with the sort of flared ears at the top there, and both head sculpts and both the sword and the trident are amazing little pieces to swap out. I love the head sculpt here. The glassiness in the eyes really brings out that character. Love the teeth and so on there. The sword, I'll give you guys a quick look at the sword. There's no metal or anything in that sword, but the sculpting along the blade there is beautifully done. Love the paint application. I think the paint application is a standout on this statue throughout. I was worried with the skin colouring and so on, but I think they've done a fantastic job. The biggest thing to be careful of, I think, is probably all of these horns or spikes in the armor and so on. It covers pretty much every aspect of his armor. So I went through and double checked that I didn't have anything chipped or broken off. They are pretty sharp in some cases, and luckily the way they designed the packaging and so on, there are no issues that I can see immediately obvious, so that's a good thing. And as you can see, the skin colouring, the skin texture, they've just done a fantastic job at Tweeterhead. I'm so glad they were able to take over this series from Sideshow when Sideshow decided to stop, and they've sort of kept the overall aesthetic. They've continued that more mature aesthetic for the collectors who grew up in the 80s, but want that more adult sort of theme to their collection. One point I'll make about the base before I swap out the head sculpt and the trident. In the initial photos I was worried about the colouring, that it didn't seem to have as much of a purple hue as the other original releases, but in person it doesn't look too bad. It probably is a little bit more greyish than the others that have a bit more of a purple hue, but the purple does come through in person and up close, so it's not too bad, although I do wish it probably had just a little bit more purple in it. The sort of water or swamp that is climbing out of there, I think is nicely done as well. I think there were reports that the original prototype they showed at some of the conventions probably looked a little bit too yellow, like it was crawling out of the toilet, but the way they've got that sort of murky acidic color, I think is really good. Probably the only thing I could wished for the base itself is this tentacle that comes out. It's more of a matte finish than I would have hoped for. That shininess that they had on the Tila statue of that tentacle, if they had applied that sort of sheen to it, it would have made that pop just that little bit more. But I guess in the scheme of things, that's a minor nit to pick. But as you can see with this statue, just all the details in the skin, the loincloth there, it's just really amazingly done. I think the next up on their list is Trapjaw, and that looks just as amazing as well. So while I have his hair sculpt there, I'm just going to swap over to the alternate one and put the trident on as well. Hold on. So here is the alternate swap out hair sculpt, which is, I guess, more in line with the way he looked in the cartoon itself and not the toy. And this is probably the head sculpt that I prefer on the statue. The fact that the ears at the top there sort of flare out to the side sort of fills the gap a little bit more. I think the alternate head sculpt, even though that's pretty amazing as well, it does look, I guess, a little bit smaller when it's on the statue itself, as you can see there. So side by side. I mean, either option I think look pretty amazing on the statue itself, but I do prefer the one on the left. That sort of aligns with more the way I remember him looking in the cartoon itself. And there is the trident. It is pretty long, but if you've got the statues like Hordak and the older ones such as Skeletor and so on with their staffs, it's probably the same sort of length, so it should fit in whatever cabinets that you've got for your current collection. Just be careful of all of these very sharp tips there. Luckily no breakages or anything chipped off, but just be very careful with those tips and the one at the top there. But other than that, there's probably not too much more to say. If you're into this particular series, I would say this is right up there with the best of them. I think hopefully they release all of the henchmen. They have teased Beast-Man as well, and I think if anyone has these collections with all the henchmen, that would look pretty amazing with the original Skeletor, or even their newly pre-ordered Skeletor. So that is up for pre-order. I'll probably pass on that one because I do have the original, and that new one does look a little bit more heroic, I guess, and I do prefer the sort of sinister, more I can't think of an adjective, but that old sort of evil sort of style Skeletor, I think was more aligned with this more adult sort of interpretation of the characters. But that's pretty much it for my look at this new Mer-Man. If you can't tell already, I think it's pretty freaking amazing. So I'm definitely glad Tweeterhead are continuing, and hopefully we see the announcements for Beast-Man and Sorceress soon. But that's pretty much it. Hopefully you can give the video a quick like and subscribe. I do have a few more things coming up over the next month or so, so hopefully you can subscribe and stay tuned for all of that. And until then, thanks again, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers. Bye.